Ethan Cross had seen many dangerous missions, but this one felt different. The city was on edge, a palpable tension hanging in the air. Over the past few weeks, 3 prominent public figures had been assassinated in broad daylight, each kill swift and precise. The media dubbed it the Phantom Strikes, and while fear gripped the city, whispers of political upheaval swirled in the shadows. Ethan was no stranger to difficult assignments, but this wasn't just about stopping a killer, it was about unraveling a much larger plot. The mercenary responsible was no ordinary hitman. He was calculated, elusive, and always one step ahead. The killings weren't random, they had a purpose. Someone was pulling the strings, using the assassin to take down key figures who held power in the city. Ethan's mission was to stop the carnage, but more importantly, to uncover who was behind it all before more bodies piled up. Ethan sat in the dimly lit office of an old ally, Captain Marcus Greer of the city's Special Task Force. Marcus slid a file across the table, photos of the 3 victims. Each held a prominent position in the city: the mayor, a high-profile district attorney, and the police commissioner. Their deaths had sent shockwaves through the political world, but they all had one thing in common. They had been working on an anti-corruption task force aimed at taking down a powerful political faction. "This is bigger than a string of murders, Ethan," Marcus said, his voice grim. "Whoever's behind this is trying to bury something deep. They're erasing anyone who stands in their way." Ethan flipped through the files, piecing together the puzzle. The mercenary wasn't just a contract killer, he was a pawn in a much larger game. His targets weren't random, they were systematically selected. Whoever hired him had the resources and influence to orchestrate this from the shadows. The deeper Ethan dug, the more he realized that the city's power structure was teetering on the brink of collapse. As Ethan left Marcus's office, a sense of urgency washed over him. He needed to track down the killer, but more importantly, he had to figure out who was controlling him. He knew that if he didn't act quickly, more people would die, and the city could be thrown into chaos. Ethan's investigation led him to a high-end nightclub frequented by the city's elite. He wasn't looking for the killer here, he was looking for information. The club's owner, a well-connected fixer named Victor Calloway, was known to have ties to both political figures and mercenaries. Ethan knew if anyone had information about the killer's employer, it would be Victor. Inside the lavish club, Ethan found Victor in his private booth, surrounded by bodyguards. After a tense confrontation, Victor revealed a key piece of information. A shadowy political figure, Senator Robert Deveraux, was at the center of the conspiracy. Deveraux had been secretly funding the assassin's operations, eliminating anyone who threatened his rise to power. Armed with this new intel, Ethan knew he was running out of time. Deveraux was planning a final strike, a high-profile assassination that would solidify his control over the city's political landscape. The target? The city's beloved governor, set to deliver a major speech the next evening. Ethan mobilized quickly, coordinating with Captain Marcus Greer to secure the governor's event. The mercenary would be there, hidden among the crowd, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. But this time, Ethan was ready. The night of the event, the tension was electric. Ethan scanned the crowd, his eyes sharp, his instincts on high alert. Somewhere in the sea of people, the assassin was watching, waiting to make his move. Then, in the corner of his eye, Ethan saw a figure move. Too fluid, too focused. The assassin. Ethan moved quickly, cutting through the crowd, closing in on his target. As the assassin raised his weapon, Ethan tackled him, knocking the gun out of his hand. A brutal fight ensued, the 2 men exchanging blows in a flurry of fists and fury, but Ethan's experience and relentless determination gave him the edge. With one final strike, Ethan incapacitated the killer and disarmed the weapon. As the assassin lay defeated, Ethan looked up at the stage where the governor, unaware of the danger, continued his speech. The plot had been foiled, but the battle wasn't over. Deveraux was still out there, his plans exposed but not defeated. Ethan knew this was only the beginning. The city's power structure had been shaken, but the deeper conspiracy still lurked in the shadows. And as long as there were people like Deveraux pulling the strings, Ethan Cross wouldn't stop until every last piece of the web was unraveled.